Books have always been part of my life. As a child, reading was one of my favourite ways to spend time. I have many memories of getting lost in stories, tucked away in my bedroom or under a favoured reading tree. In early adulthood, my relationship with books changed. Now I was at university and I stopped prioritising reading for pleasure as I was so absorbed in studying. However, over the last couple of years, I rediscovered the joy of reading. It's now an essential part of my slow life. As most of my books come from the library or secondhand, it means that this doesn't have to be an expensive hobby and it won't clutter up my tiny home. As an introvert and a highly sensitive person, reading is the perfect quiet activity that allows me time to recharge away from screens. Books have made me the person I am, and I'm so grateful to have these stories in my life. One of my favourite genres to read are books about nature because it combines my two favourite things, which is reading and nature. And that's why I'm really excited that I am partnering with Adventurous Inc. on this week's video. So Adventurous Inc. is a book subscription service that describes themselves as a book club for outsiders. I really enjoy connecting with Tim, who is the founder of Adventurous Inc. He's also very passionate about reading and being out in nature and connecting with the wider world. I love that their mantra is read, wander, reflect and reconnect. I think that's something that we can all resonate with. I'm super proud that Tim has given me the opportunity to be a guest curator for him. So this essentially means I'm able to pick a book to feature on the subscription service and share it with my audience. So the book I chose was this one, Regeneration by Andrew Painting, and the full title is Regeneration, the Rescue of a Wild Land. I love so many different nature books, but this one was the first one that came to mind because Tim suggested I try and pick one that is special to me personally, and this one really is because it's set in my beloved Cairngorms here in the Scottish Highlands. So Andrew is a fellow ecologist. I also work as an ecologist for the RSPB part-time, so we have connected through work a little bit as well. But yeah, I was really excited to hear that he was writing this book, and it's all about his work at Mar Lodge, which is essentially trying to rescue a wild land, as I said. It's a big restoration project, and most of it is surrounding restoring woodlands, Caledonian pinelands, and all the thousands of creatures that live there. I love all of his descriptions. It feels like I'm completely there. I think he's got it bang on, really describing the beauty that is the Scottish Highlands. I love the opening lines of his chapter in the woods. I think it just sums up what the book's about really well, so I thought I'd just read it to you. So he says, for a connoisseur of British woodlands, the Cairngorm's Caledonian pinewood takes some beating. They are ancient landscapes, the grand old trees, the carpeted juniper, heather and bright green blaeberry, the sounds and smells. The Caledonian pinewoods have their own quintessence. I know a lot of you love nature and probably like reading about nature, so I'm actually very excited to say that we are giving away 50 copies of this book to you guys completely free. All you have to do is follow the link in my description, which will take you over to Adventurous Inc, and it will give you all information on what you need to do there, and you also learn a little bit more about that fantastic company. As there's only 50 copies, you might want to be quite quick because I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity of getting this book. And I'm also excited to say that I will be joining Tim and Andrew, the author of this book, in a live video podcast later this month. If you want to learn a bit more about that and when that's going to be, then I'd recommend keeping an eye on the community post here on YouTube and also subscribing to my Substack. There's always a link in the description for that, as that's where I'll be giving a bit more information about this work, this partnership, and when this podcast will be. So thank you to Tim and Adventurous Inc for partnering with me on this video. But before I end this vlog, I wanted to chat a little bit more about how you can fit more reading into your life. I think a lot of us would like to read more than we do. I know it's something that I've said in the past, I still sometimes do say, and it's a lot of the time people around me say this similar, and a lot of you guys have also commented that. So I just thought I would share some things that have worked for me. It means I'm able to read consistently and really enjoy it. I think the first one is I've let myself read what I actually enjoy reading, which sounds really obvious, but I think a lot of us can get caught up in reading books that we feel we should read. So maybe stuff that is renowned, classics or on reading lists or bestseller lists, etc. And I just think that means we're setting ourselves up for a fail there, because if you keep trying to read books that you're not really enjoying, you're not really going to read often. And I just think, like, for instance, I've loved reading children's books this year. So I've loved reading the classics, Enid Blyton's, Anne of Green Gables, and I've just let that be and accepted that and revelled in that I find so much joy in that type of reading. So I think that is definitely something that I would recommend. I'd also recommend not putting too much pressure on it. I think, again, when people think about reading, they've got this image of like spending hours reading by themselves in a peace and quiet, and that's the only way they can do it, and that's just not realistic. For me, I much prefer little and often. So sometimes I can sit on the sofa and read for over an hour, and sometimes I am reading a page whilst I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, and it's swapping habits as well, and it's something that I've done and continue to do rather than scrolling on my phone, which I don't tend to do as much now. I'm not on social media. I used to pick up a book, and I always have a book with me. And when I'm out and about, I've mentioned this before, I can't remember if I've mentioned it on here or my Substack, but I mentioned that I am kind of like Rory Gilmore in Gilmore Girls, that I go out with a book pretty much all the time. I sometimes just throw one in the car, or I just take one in my bag, and particularly if I know there might be a wait, like at the hairdressers, etc. And it's just fitting it into your life and not thinking it has to be perfect. I think reading is beautifully imperfect. I think that's the best way to do it. And I also think being intentional, so sometimes the stumbling block is not knowing what to read. So what I find really handy is keeping like a reading list and a reading diary, and I do that on Notion, and I actually do sell a Notion template. So I always have links to my Etsy store down below, so you can go and check that, and I adored making that because it's all like aesthetic, but it's also super useful and super practical. So I always have reading lists, and it allows me to capture things I love, quotes, information, etc. from the books I'm reading. And it just makes me inspired to keep reading, and I always have something to refer to if I'm a bit like, oh, I'm not really sure what I want to read. I have a whole list of different categories that I can dip into when I want to. So it's really something I could go on for probably for ages, but I think they're some of my biggest tips and pieces of advice that have helped me, but do share yours below if you have any of your own. And yeah, and if there's any more book type content you'd like to see, do let me know. I do talk about books a bit more on my Substack, but I'd love to do more stuff here, and I know I share what I'm reading now and again in vlogs, but if there's anything else specific you'd like to see from me, then do let me know. And remember, if you wanted to check out Adventurous Inc. and get that free copy of Regeneration, then there is a link to their website below that you can follow. And yeah, I hope you get it, and if you do, obviously let me know, and if you read it, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and maybe I'll see some of you guys at our podcast later this month. But that's it for me now, I think, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon.